Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a quick update on my pedal board. This is a Pedaltrain 2, and this is a look at all the pedals together. Everything's wired up and powered by a Voodoo Labs Pedal Power 2 Plus. So first up is the TC-Helicon Harmony GXT, which is a vocal pedal, and it uses the input from your guitar to determine the harmony note that it gives your voice. So it's a cool effect, and it's the first thing that I plug my guitar into, as well as the microphone. After that, go to the Earthquaker devices, the Warden compressor, which I really love because it has 6 knobs, and it most simulates what you'd see in a regular studio compressor rack mounted type of effect, because it has attack and release knobs, and I like that just to be able to customize the type of compression that I'm getting even more than just a regular mix knob. So next up is the Earthquaker devices organizer, which is an octave pedal, and I really like the choir effect, which adds extra octave up and down to your signals. So another octave above the up and down, or below, and yeah, it's a subtle effect, but it works really well with volume swells, adding kind of an extra layer to your sound. So next is what I've finally landed on as my overdrive pedal, which is the Earthquaker devices Palisades. This is great. It has, if you can see, it's called voice and bandwidth settings, and they're basically different clipping types. And so the voice 0 through 6 goes from a really open setting to a really tight closed settings, and then bandwidth is just different types of overdrive, and again 1 is kind of the least amount, and up to 5 is the most. Also has a volume tone knobs, and then a boost knob here which controls the boost. Now the only thing I don't like that isn't perfect about this is that the boost only works if one of these, or one of the channels, is engaged. So for gain A, turn it on with this switch. If you want to switch to gain B, which is a heavier gain, you click that on, and then either one or both, you hit the boost, and that'll boost your signal according to whatever this knob is turned to. Cool things are, additionally, it has a bright switch, which I don't usually leave on, but it has a buffer, which I currently have on, which saves me from having to have another separate buffer pedal. So this is really like 3 or 4 pedals in one, and so I really like all the sounds it has, as well as, you know, its multiple functionality. From there, we go over to the Ernie Ball VP Jr, which is modded. If you can see underneath, it's got a little light in there. That actually has a buffer as well for the tuner out, which I don't use anymore. Next up is the Old Noise Endeavors Black Fountain. This is an amazing, it simulates a oil can delay, and it's great for turning the feedback all the way up, because it never oscillates. You can turn it all the way up, and it will just continue to repeat forever and not ever get out of control. So it's really cool. The fluid is kind of a modulation knob, which there's also 3 different settings. I tend to like it on modern, with the mix around 50% or higher, and depending, everything kind of is influenced by everything else, so depending on what setting you use here, that will determine the amount of time you have and how everything else works together. Next up is the El Capistan by Strymon, and this is also where my signal switches from mono into the 2 outputs here, and from there we go stereo the rest of the way. So this is a tape simulator delay. Really enjoy the tape age, and Wild Flutter really gives you a lot of control, flexibility. You can turn up the repeats to pretty high. This one will get out of control, and then you can kind of start playing with other weird sounds. So that's a fun one to have. Stereo inputs into what I use the TC Electronic Flashback delay and looper for mostly is the digital delay. I also use the reverse setting and then sometimes the looper. It gives you 40 seconds of loop time, which is pretty nice. And then it also has, you can get kind of a nice, it has 3 different settings where there's a quarter note, eighth note, or dotted eighth, and then a quarter end dotted eighth. So I leave it on that. It gives you a nice kind of ping pong sound type of delay where they're bouncing off each other. This also has analog tape, lo-fi, dynamic, modulated, ping pong, slap, and then a tone print. So it gives you a lot of different options. Really flexible delay pedal. All of them sound great, so that's why it's managed to stay on my board for so long. And then last but not least is the Strymon BigSky, which is my reverb pedal. And yeah, there's a ton of different sounds with this, from your basic plate, room, hall, spring, to has swell, and then bloom, cloud, and choral are really cool settings. I love the choral setting. You can change the vowel sound from ahs to some different ohs and oohs. And so that gives you, via the parameter knobs here, it gives you control over some different settings, and you can control modulation, you can control the tone, decay, pre-delay, and mix, all have separate. So I had the Blue Sky for a while, and this just gives you so much more flexibility to customize your reverb sounds. It also gets into some more crazy sounds with magneto, non-linear, and reflections is a real subtle reverb, but they're all really great sounding reverbs, and yeah, it just gives you a ton of different options and a lot of flexibility in your reverb. So all the reverbs and delays are down here on the bottom, just so that I have closer control if I bend down and change things easily. And then all the kind of stuff that stays on or off and doesn't change too much is up around the top. So that's what I have so far. And yeah, if you guys have any questions about anything, how I use any of the pedals together, leave a comment.